A dilapidated alley on the outskirts of the capital. People were coming and going secretively through a small two-story building. Smith, the Duke of the South, entered through the back door. Inside, many nobles were already seated around the table, deep in discussion. "Your Excellency the Duke, you've arrived?" A nobleman who spotted him quickly rose and offered his seat. Smith sat down proudly, as if the seat had always been his. "You're a bit late." Smith greeted Edina, the Duchess of the East, who was seated at the head of the table. Dissatisfaction flickered in her pale blue eyes. "It seems the meeting hasn't started without me. Has the plan to depose His Majesty the Emperor already concluded?" When Smith looked around with feigned surprise, the nobles averted their gazes with uncomfortable expressions. "Duke of the South. Watch your words," Edina warned in a cold voice. "Oh, did I misspeak? I came here thinking this was precisely that kind of meeting." Smith joked and looked at the nobles as if seeking their agreement. When the nobles shifted uncomfortably under the Southern Duke's gaze, Edina intervened. "Everyone else may leave." The nobles quickly vacated their seats, sensing the tense confrontation between the two. Everyone disappeared, leaving only two people at the large table. When silence fell over the room, the Southern Duke tapped the table once and spoke. "I hear the Duke of the East has been healthier lately?" However, Edina laughed coldly, reading the hidden meaning behind his deliberate use of Duke rather than Duchess. "He still has difficulty moving." "I see. Unlike the previous young Duke, the current young Duke is far too young to handle a position like this." Edina's eyes grew cold as Smith continued his veiled attacks. "I hear you've been quite busy with the bountiful fruit harvest in the south. Yet you remain in the capital. Could it be that you still haven't found the person you're searching for?" This time, Smith's eyes flickered with barely contained anger. It was supposed to be a secret that he was searching for his twin brother. But was there ever a perfect secret in this world? Just as he knew that the former young Duke of the East had died, abandoned in the streets. After receiving news that his brother had been spotted in the capital, Smith had been unable to return south. Because his brother had taken the family ring, the one passed down through generations, and hidden it. Without that ring, he would be nothing more than a disgraced head of house. The two exchanged knowledge of each other's weaknesses, then fell silent, studying one another. "How much do you know?" Smith quickly softened his expression and changed the subject. "You've heard it too, haven't you? The news from the West." Edina's eyes wavered slightly at his words. In response to her silence, Smith pressed further. "They say the Duke of the West's fiancé possesses magical talents. What do you think? Why don't we take this opportunity to destabilize the Duke of the West?" No matter how well he knew the South while being in the East, he harbored even greater resentment toward the Duke of the West. Hadn't that man recklessly killed a Southern noble for his sister's sake? Hadn't he flaunted his power by bringing a monster to the annual meeting? As if he alone were righteous. If a thorn in one's side causes discomfort, it should be removed. You shouldn't underestimate the West. After a long pause, Edina finally spoke. My. Is the Duchess of the East, leader of the nobility, actually defending the West?" The wrinkles around Edina's eyes deepened. "I'm not defending the West. I'm simply stating facts." "Then let me ask you directly, which side will the South choose?" When she demanded he choose between the Emperor and the nobility, a strange smile appeared on Smith's lips. "Am I not here right now?" Edina regarded Smith with distrust as he coiled around her question like a snake. The North had isolated itself. The West served as the imperial shield. The East held the trust of both nobles and commoners. The South, on the other hand, was unreliable, always moving toward whatever proved most profitable. "Then I expect you to attend the next meeting on time." "Naturally." Smith met Edina's distrustful gaze and replied with a practiced smile. "Gerard's office." Gerard, who had been reading a report, looked up. His gaze caught Olive, whose smile hadn't faded in days. His face practically glowed. Seeing Olive so visibly changed stirred an odd feeling of irritation. Olive. Yes, Your Excellency. Olive smiled as he placed another report on the desk. Gerard narrowed his eyes and studied Olive. I feel annoyed. Pardon? In a strange way, I feel like I owe you something. I feel like you're getting ahead of yourself somehow. Why do I feel this way? Where did this bright face and relaxed attitude come from? Just a few days ago, he had been as limp as boiled cabbage. Olive averted his eyes slightly. Nothing happened. Is that so? Yes. Olive answered quickly. Did you win? Pardon? The drinking bet. Against Serene. Olive's eyes grew as wide as lanterns. Gerard laughed as if he had finally figured it out. To think Olive had been this cheerful for days simply because he won a drinking bet. He was still so young. Well, that's... Olive's brown eyes wandered aimlessly. You may feel relieved when something you've been hoping for finally comes true. At his words, Olive's expression became one caught between laughter and tears. Yes. At that moment, Gerard's attention turned to the office door. Come in. Butler Sebastian entered, carrying a letter on a golden tray. Your Excellency the Duke. It has finally arrived. At the slight tremor in Butler Sebastian's voice, Gerard and Olive looked at the letter simultaneously. Olive quickly walked over, picked up the letter, and handed it to Gerard. Butler Sebastian stood beside Olive, eager to hear the good news together. Gerard picked up the silver letter opener from his desk, slit the envelope open, and read the letter. The two who had been waiting with excited expressions watched the Duke read the message, then remained silent. They exchanged worried glances. Gerard's expression as he read the Emperor's letter was as cold as a winter wind. The dangerous, ferocious energy that had seemed ready to explode finally did. Olive, unable to withstand the Duke's aura, took a step back. Butler Sebastian stepped forward as if to shield him. Your Excellency the Duke. Butler Sebastian, facing the Duke's overwhelming presence head-on, raised his voice as if to snap him back to awareness. The Duke looked up, saw the two of them, and reined in his aura. The oppressive energy that had made every hair on their bodies stand on end subsided in an instant. The Duke's tightly pressed lips finally parted. The Emperor has lost his mind. Olive looked at Butler Sebastian in shock. Butler Sebastian quickly composed his startled expression. Isn't this the message of consent for the marriage? Olive asked carefully. It is. For a wedding. Gerard's voice was laced with ice. Olive's mind raced with questions. When the Duke threw the Emperor's letter to the ground as if discarding garbage, both Olive and the butler moved at the same time. Butler Sebastian, with his years of training, was slightly faster. He retrieved the letter and handed it to Olive with an expression that said he couldn't bear to read its contents himself. Olive opened the letter and read it, his mouth falling open. The information about a wedding was correct. However, it was the wrong wedding. It was a marriage between the Crown Prince and Princess Dia, not the Duke. This is insane. Olive quickly shut his mouth, the words having escaped before he could stop them. He should have kept that thought to himself, but it seemed he was becoming more like the Duke every day. He slowly handed the letter to Butler Sebastian, who kept asking with his eyes. Butler Sebastian took it with trembling hands and read. His strong forearm muscles tensed visibly as he gripped the letter. I believe His Majesty the Emperor must be unwell. Butler Sebastian lifted his eyes from the letter and offered the most diplomatic criticism he could muster. Olive closed his eyes tightly. His heart pounded as if he were walking on thin ice. I think so too. What do you plan to do? Gerard looked out the window. How long must we endure a mad emperor? Butler Sebastian and Olive swallowed hard at his dangerous words. Olive thought of the only person who could calm the Duke's fury and spoke cautiously. I think it would be wise to consult with Lady Marin first. You're right. Butler Sebastian nodded in agreement. Certainly. Sebastian and Olive breathed a collective sigh of relief.